The Chargers had stability at quarterback for a decade and a half with Phillip Rivers behind center, but it took Los Angeles no time at all to find their next franchise quarterback, Justin Herbert. The Chargers have spent the last 2 years reloading their roster, and after a huge offseason, the Chargers are in true position to seriously contend for a Super Bowl in 2022. In almost 30 years, the Chargers have made it past the divisional round a single time, and that was back in 2007, which I would assume was a pretty good time to be a Chargers fan. And a lot of that was thanks to Phillip Rivers. Rivers was quite literally Mr. Chargers. He spent 17 years with them and owns just about every single franchise record you could possibly think of. Rivers left for the Colts after 2019, and it felt like the Chargers were in a new era. And, well, Los Angeles didn't take any time at all to find its next franchise quarterback, using the 6th pick at the 2020 NFL Draft on Justin Herbert. Everybody knows that the success of a team starts and ends with the quarterback, and the Chargers are in a fantastic spot thanks to Herbert. It's only been 2 seasons, and Herbert has already proven that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. His rookie year, he took over after some, well, odd circumstances. Yeah, a doctor literally stabbed Tyrod Taylor in the lung, and we just kind of moved on like it didn't happen. Herbert got the starting job, and the rest is history. He went on to be named the Offensive Rookie of the Year after throwing for 4,336 yards and 31 touchdowns to only 10 interceptions, an extremely impressive rookie campaign. Then, last year, he proved it wasn't a fluke at all. Herbert had over 5,000 yards, threw for 38 touchdowns, and had 15 interceptions. He made his first Pro Bowl, and now the expectations for Herbert are huge. Looking back at the 2020 NFL Draft, there were 3 consensus top quarterbacks. And luckily for Herbert, he's the only one that hasn't had to quite literally run for his life for the past 2 years. Joe Burrow's line is, well, ass, yet somehow still made it to the Super Bowl. I don't know how, but they did. And Tua Tagovailoa's line, well, I don't know that I've ever seen an offensive line that bad in my life. The Chargers line, however, graded out as the 10th best last season, and Rashawn Slater is the dude to watch on the line. LA selected him in the first round a year ago, and already you can argue he's one of the best tackles in the league. Also, the Chargers just used another first rounder on the line, taking guard Zion Johnson at 17. The already solid line is now even more improved, and that bodes well for Austin Ekeler. Ekeler was once an undrafted running back in 2017 who signed with the Chargers. Certainly a decision they're pretty happy about. He's used a lot in the pass game, and after a solid first 2 years in the pros, Ekeler was the starter in 2019 when Melvin Gordon was holding out. He had over 1,500 yards from scrimmage and has just been a stud since. He even got a 4-year, $24.5 million deal in 2020. The Chargers wide receiver core is still led by Keenan Allen, like it has been since the Chargers drafted him in the 3rd round in 2013. He's averaged well over 1,000 yards a season for the past 5 years, is a 5-time Pro Bowler, and was the Comeback Player of the Year in 2017. Allen is making over $20 million for a reason, and now LA's number 2 wideout is getting paid as well, Mike Williams. The Chargers just gave their 2017 first-rounder a 3-year, $60 million extension this offseason. He's recorded almost 3,000 yards in the past 3 seasons and has solidified himself as one of the NFL's better wide receivers. Also, last year's 3rd-rounder Joshua Palmer is in line for the wide receiver 3 role. Something else worth noting, LA signed tight end Gerald Everett, who had a career-high 478 yards in Seattle after a successful first 4 seasons with the Rams. Taking a look at the defense, it's going to be near impossible to find another team with 2 better rushers than the Chargers. They took Joey Bosa 3rd overall back in 2016, and since, he's been the Defensive Rookie of the Year and a 4-time Pro Bowler. In the only 2 seasons Bosa hasn't had double-digit sacks, he missed time due to injury. LA runs a 3-4, so Bosa probably is the weak side linebacker, and now, on the strong side, the Chargers have some guy, probably heard of him, named Khalil Mack. He's been one of the best defensive players in the league since the Raiders drafted him 5th overall in 2014. Mack was even the Defensive Player of the Year in 2016. Plus, he's been a 4-time All-Pro and 6-time Pro Bowler. Mack played the first 4 years of his career in Oakland before he was traded to Chicago and then was traded this offseason to LA for a 2nd and 6th round picks. It put him back together with head coach Brandon Staley, who was his outside linebackers coach when he was with the Bears. The Chargers weren't done bolstering the defense ends there though. Los Angeles has already drafted well for the secondary. Derwin James was the 17th selection in 2018, and since, he's been one of the best safeties in the league. He's a 2-time All-Pro and 2-time Pro Bowler. Plus, last year, the Chargers drafted Asante Samuel Jr. in the 2nd round, and he really had an impressive rookie campaign at cornerback. Now, Samuel gets to play opposite of one of the pro's best ball hawks, J.C. Jackson. Jackson was literally an undrafted free agent who signed with the Patriots, has won a Super Bowl, been named an All-Pro, made a Pro Bowl, and oh yeah, he's had 25 picks in only 4 seasons. In this offseason, he got paid. The Chargers gave him a wild 5-year, $82.5 million deal. With a name like Justin Herbert on the roster, it's easy to understand why there's so much buzz around the Chargers. But what commonly gets overlooked is how good their defense is. The roster in general is good, and so is their coach. Back in 2021, the Chargers hired Rams defensive coordinator Brandon Staley. I think it's safe to say that Staley didn't have to move too far for his new job. He's been known for being very bold and taking a risky approach. Likely, some of it comes from his seasons coaching under Sean McVay, but it's come back to bite him in the ass a few times. In Week 18 last year, the Chargers went into the game 9-7 and were going to make the playoffs if they won or tied with the Raiders. Well, Staley got a lot of shit for a few decisions, and for good reason too. He went for it on 4th down on his own 18-yard line, and it led to the Raiders extending their lead with a short field. And later, he called for a timeout with 39 seconds left that led to a Raiders field goal instead of Las Vegas just accepting a tie to put both the Raiders and Chargers in the playoffs. There's going to be one big question for the Chargers in 2022, and that's how they're going to fare in the AFC West. I don't think anybody in the world would disagree that this division is absolutely loaded. And realistically, any of the 4 teams could win the division or finish in dead last. The Chiefs have been a powerhouse for years now with Patrick Mahomes, and literally were a few plays away from the Super Bowl last season. They're still there, and they're not going to go anywhere, even if they don't have Tyreek Hill. And of course, the other 2 teams in the AFC West have loaded up this offseason. The Broncos went out and traded for Russell Wilson, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and now he gets paired up with a pretty damn good roster too. Finally, the Raiders, who already have Derek Carr, traded for Devontae Adams. The division is just insane now. I mean, like, come on. You can argue that Derek Carr is a top 10 quarterback, and he's still, yes, still probably the worst quarterback in that division. That's how wild the AFC West is, and it's going to come down to how the Chargers can fare having to play 6 games a season in their own division. With all that being said, I think the Chargers still have the best overall roster in that division. And honestly, if you really wanted to, you could probably argue that they have the best quarterback too.